If Purdy goes out there and balls out, he's going to be a very rich man. And I think for him and his agent, his team, they want to make up for what he's missed out on as far as the money that he hasn't been able to make so far in his NFL career. Trey Lance is going to cost the Niners more this year than Brock Purdy. If Brock Purdy goes out in 2024 and he duplicates his success from last year, then the number that he's going to make as far as his salary could be richer than Trevor Lawrence. But here's why you shouldn't panic about that. The Patrick Mahomes deal, in which he got $500 million, it was only signed a few years ago, now looks like a bargain. This deal, if Trevor Lawrence ends up playing solid football and not great football, could end up being a good value play for an organization that's been a dumpster fire organization for a long time, but is looking for sustainability and consistency at the quarterback spot. And as you look ahead for Purdy, players like CJ Stroud, and the NFL salary cap continuing to increase, I think some of these quarterback salaries could be north of $60-65 million in the span of a couple of years.
It's funny when I see, a lot of people start talking about what Brock is going to make, they'll come up and they'll say, well, hopefully Brock's the kind of guy who doesn't want to come and rob the bank all by himself. He wants to leave a little on the table. I'm like, well, where do you think the start of his career has come from? Like, he's already given at the office. The 49ers have gotten as much of a bargain, I think, as they're going to get on Brock. The baseline for Purdy's contract, though, has pretty much been plucked by this Lawrence deal, though. It really has. Same amount of years on their bodies, different situations, as completely opposite draft positions as you can find. But Purdy's success, Niner overall success, Purdy's production, I really think now has him looking at a 5-year. I mean, it'll be a bargain for the Niners if they bring him in 5 years, 280, probably be 5 years, 300, with at least 50% of that guaranteed, $150 million a year guarantee. I think that this is the opening negotiating point if I'm Team Purdy sitting down with the Niners looking at this Trevor Lawrence deal. I think that this really sets the parameters of what Purdy's looking at.
I think you're right. I think the other thing that I'm really already going to push back on is just, does it really matter? I mean, there's going to be people out there that if it's a record-setting deal are going to quickly shoot to the video of the 49ers can't win a Super Bowl paying Brock Purdy fill in the blank, whatever they paid him. I mean, is there, I realize 40 million's a lot, 45 million's a lot, 50 million's a lot, 55 million's a lot. I mean, the biggest move is that you're going from $1 million to whatever number you're going to. I'm not going to lose my mind if suddenly Brock Purdy makes $56 million a year, and it's like, you can't. If he had taken 48, they would have been a Super Bowl team, but at 56, he's screwing them. It's like I can only wait for that video. But I personally think that it's one of those things we ought to just block out these numbers and just acknowledge the fact that this is kind of reality in the NFL. If you're a quarterback that leads your team to the playoffs and you're considered in the top half of the league and your time comes up for an extension, you're going to get near record-setting money, most likely.
Well, Purdy's abnormal price point will not be what is struck in the future. Purdy's abnormal price point is what we're coming out of, right? I mean, if you really want to think about it, the Purdy's about to make normal starting Pro Bowl caliber NFL quarterback money. There's nothing abstract about that. There's nothing abnormal about that. The only thing that's abnormal about that was his starting position as the last pick in the draft is now qualifying for that price point. I think we'll look back at this with not fear that the Niners can't win with Purdy at his future price point. I think we're going to look back at it and just say what opportunity was squandered when Purdy was at this other price point.
You can also look at it this way, right? The Niners have gotten Brock Purdy on such a great bargain that at the end of the day, when he gets this new deal, does it all kind of average out anyway? Brock Purdy finishes top 5 in MVP voting last year, leads the Niners to the Super Bowl, and played elite. He was top 5, top 10 in pretty much every major statistical category. And he was playing at a base salary of under $1 million. So you'll now get that production again if he plays in 2024 as if he performed in 2023 at that going rate. And yes, it is a massive multiplier to go from around $1 million, less than $1 million, to let's set the price tag at $50 million, so to speak. That all kind of averages out at the end of the day. And a few years ago, remember the outrage when Patrick Mahomes signed that deal? $500 million, one of the richest contracts in the history of American sports. Nobody is ever going to duplicate that. Well, now everybody's passing Patrick Mahomes. And if I would have told you then that a wide receiver in Justin Jefferson would be making $35 million per year, people would say you're absolutely crazy. But that's the business and that's the power of the NFL. And as long as the league continues to have this much popularity, this much growth, and it continues to have a stranglehold on America, Brock Purdy might be making $50 million. And you might say, well, how do you fill out the rest of your team? You're also going to have more salary cap space allotted to all teams in the NFL naturally as the game continues to grow.
It all goes up. That's the thing. You know, the
price always goes up.
The price of your concert ticket will never go down. I think we're going to look at a $40 to $50 million salary cap jump in the next season or two just to accommodate the new price of quarterbacks and wide receivers.
Yep.
The NFL is going to have to do that. Again, the money that you're worried about now, the cap number that you're worried about now, I think it's all about to greatly expand and grow. And if there really is an 18th game added to the schedule coming soon, I mean, if I'm the players, I want to sit down and I want to redo the entire CBA, and I'm going to address team pay as opposed to quarterback play. But I'm trying to get. I think it's a nuts idea, but I think it works. NFL team salary caps do not include the quarterback's salary, or some sort of forgiveness on an extreme quarterback salary. I think needs to be applied to these rosters to keep some normalcy in football. I mean, you're going to squeeze the back end of your roster so severely to accommodate, 12 to 15 quarterbacks in this league that I think the NFLPA needs to do something about that. You can't have a billionaire class position and just working class football everywhere else.
You make a fair point too. And on top of that, I guess you could kind of look at it in a malleable sense like this, right? Let's say that the NFL salary cap going into 2025 does jump $40 to $45 million. And for everybody out there concerned about what Brock Purdy could make, what if you just think about it in this sense? Salary cap goes up $40 million. You're going to pay Brock Purdy 50 to 60. So a large chunk of that new money is going to go toward Purdy's new deal, right? But then the remainder of that money, you can still utilize that to fill out your roster. And I do think that that's a way to look at this if you're San Francisco. Also at the same time, and Larry and I have talked about this a lot, regardless of what happens this year, and Larry makes the point that is a totally fair point of teams taking advantage of quarterbacks on their rookie contracts. There's more pressure on the Niners to do that this year, knowing that Purdy is on the final year of his deal. If they win the Super Bowl, giving him a contract isn't going to be as hard as if they have a bad year or if they lose again, because then it's like, man, now we have to pay him all this money and we still haven't won. Right. So either way, I think next offseason, though, you're going to run into a situation where you're going to have to make some difficult emotional and roster decisions in letting go of a marquee veteran on this team to have some more flexibility, Damon, that you brought up on the salary cap because of Purdy's new deal.
Thanks for watching. Tune into the Damon Bruce Show live on YouTube every weekday at 2 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Pacific.